Mm.
Random talking thing.
Is anyone even listening to it then?
No, well, people do, man. I've got like there's quite a few 100,000 actually. Like some of the good ones, or the ones where people like are either really badly hating on me or it's something about them. They get thousands.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if it's people. I don't know if it's the same people listening to it or what the situation is, but
God, that's fucking freezing.
I'm sure it's not the police as well. The police would be fucking. The police wouldn't really be
Nah.
watching thousands and thousands. I don't see how they would. There's nothing that they would get on it at all.
Well,
but yeah,
what convo do you want to go back to then?
I need to turn you up now. Now I'm doing it this way. This is typical, isn't it?
You not hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's always a bit awkward at the beginning, isn't it? Can you hear me, Chase? I can't hear you. Can't hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah. I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? Chase?
Is that better? That's better.
Yeah. What happened?
This is what I'm saying. My whole setup's pretty fucking playing up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything just does what it wants when it wants, and that's been the highlight of my last couple of weeks. Yeah. So
my situation's a bit different. I mean, there's not going to be many people that have gone through what I've gone through twice, is there?
Well, no, there's not really. I'm not being funny, mate, but I think you've obviously done it better the second time round. I mean, I don't know if you could do it better. Can you do it better? Is that even a thing? Doing it better.
You control.
You've controlled yourself better this time round.
Yeah.
That's what you can say you have done, and I think, but then you've gone to. I still say you went to your cookie jar. You've gone into your cookie jar, and because you've gone through it before, you can now say you've safely. You can say you've done it. You know, you've dealt with these feelings before, and they're not new feelings and not new emotions, and that's why you're better at dealing with it that way.
Yeah, 100%. It's better though. It is better. It's better the second time.
What do you mean?
Because you know what to do.
Well, it's better, mate. It's better. I think anyone needs to know that it's better than doing it this way. Doing it the way you're doing it is better than doing it when there's fire and fury and shit like that, because that just doesn't achieve nothing. But even then, I think the fact that you were able to do it this way with no fire and fury, and as much as that come at you with fire and fury, you diffused it, and you literally put the fire out, which was good. It's very good.
For now.
Yeah. Well, you see how long it goes on for, and then hopefully things just continue like the way they have been, and it just stays peaceful, because that's for the sake of the children, for the sake of the child. That's what you got to do. It's how you've got to do it, because otherwise it just goes. Otherwise you end up with section 37, section 47. As soon as you go down those roads, it's just a scary road to walk down.
Goes down to self-work again, doesn't it, Jace?
Second?
The only thing I can control is myself in this situation.
That's it. You can't. If you're just taking care of yourself, but then the other person is causing fire and whatnot, you just got to keep putting the fire out. And then, but then you've got to watch yourself, because it's like if the professional starts assessing and challenging you in terms of your psychology, and then they start pressing your buttons because they think that you're putting a pretense up or whatever, because there's a dramatic change from between who you were and what they perceive you to be and who you are, and they will do that because that's what they do. It's like, is this just an act for us? So they will check that out. They will push buttons, which isn't really fair. So they did it with they've done it with a few people. Like literally, ICFA have done it with a few of my people now. They've done it with and they've done stuff, and they said, they've got themselves involved, or it feels like they're getting involved personally with the residing parent, and then they try and stop contact from happening, but then it happens, and there's a clear conflict of breakdown of communication, and it's done, or I think it's done intentionally, because once with one person is a coincidence, but like 2 or 3 times with 2 or 3 different people goes beyond like a coincidence, then, doesn't it?
Unless you're a victim.
Huh?
Unless you've been picked.
Unless you've been picked. I mean, this is it. But then the professionals pick it. The professionals, they do it. They do it with all of them. They do it with me. They know what they pick us out in terms of a psych, in terms of a colour, in terms of a letters, whatever, however they want, whatever theory they're using, whatever they use. What they're not wrong about is everyone has a personality type, and everyone is either, if you're going to put it in the simplest of terms, like red, yellow, green, blue. Yeah, different colours, different types of personalities. And because everyone is different, and whatever system they're using, they're generally going to be right or thereabouts. It's the same as when we answer questions on these forms, and then they can predict, based on our answers, they can predict what type of person we are, and that's what they do. And they can predict, and then they will. If you're a certain color, you're going to behave a certain way, and you may be able to get away with it once or twice, but then if they keep doing it over a period of time, then that's going to piss you off, and then you're going to be reacting, and then that's what they say. Well, there you go. They've got the real person there, but then what you're acting like is a normal human behavior, but it's just you're being prodded, and then you're getting prodded, and because you're getting prodded, you're like, oh, you snap because everyone's got a breaking point, but then you get made to feel that you're the bad person. But if you're really, really, like there's people I work for, and then they're really, really soft, and as much as I prod them and poke them, as much as anyone pods and pokes them, they just literally they're calm. They're calm. They're just calm literally all the time, which is cool. Which is good. Which is good. But if you're that way, but it's difficult. It is difficult.
Should go back to Buddha.
Huh?
Should go back to Buddha though.
Go back to Buddha.
Yeah.
Buddha's good, man.
Everything's temporary.
Everything's temporary. Nothing's forever.
Nothing in your life is forever.
Apart from my life, because I'm invincible.
It's a great way to live, though, man. Honestly, if you don't ever believe that anything you truly have is yours and it's all borrowed, and eventually it's going to go back, but whilst you've got it and it's borrowed, you appreciate it and you love it and you detach. Yeah. Detachment is the biggest thing. It's the only way you can get over really bad situations. You have to detach all emotion from that certain thing that you have fear. You detach from your fear. That's what it is. That's in essence what it is. And what is your fear? My fear is losing my kids. How do you get over your fear of losing kids? You detach. But when you do that, and you adapt it to everything in your life, you're pretty unbreakable, aren't you?
Yeah. Mate, I mean, it's just a different way of looking at shit, isn't it? It's just a different way of looking at shit.
I could never be that person that says something is my life, something is my world. Without this, I would be nothing. Like, I mean, come on.
Oh, mate, yeah, but hang on a minute. No. You can't really go there with that. Because you can't. Because I would say my world is Lila. My world is my Lila, but my job is to protect her. So where's the difference?
But without her, would you be dead?
I would be a fucking. Well, I'm not. Am I? Clearly not.
This is what I mean. This is what you're basically saying when you say that, though. I don't believe that you should put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. You should you should appreciate everything in life.
Well, you should
appreciate everything in life, except that nothing's permanent, except everything's temporary, and detach from your fears.
That's where you're going to make sure that you're invincible. That's where you make sure that you are. Nothing's going to get in and break you, basically. No.
I don't. Remind you though, Jace, how fucking blind was I a year ago, man, when I met you?
Well, mate, this is what I'm saying.
Blind.
Everyone is no one's flawless. No one is like, no one can say, "Oh, I'm not going to make a mistake," or no one's got the right to criticize or condemn anyone else for doing so or making that mistake or being that person that makes a mistake. So it doesn't matter. Nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. Nothing matters. That's the fact of the matter. What's he gone? Oh, he's gone. Where's he gone with that then? Oh, that's a bit odd. Well then, I feel like I've been a bit stood up there. I feel like I've been stood up. He's coming back in now. What's he doing? Was he doing like going to the toilet or something?
I pressed the wrong button.
Is someone calling you?
Nah. But
Go on.
I don't know, like my
No, you're saying, oh, I'll be lost without her. You're saying some people commenting, I'll be lost without my kids. That's how they feel, and you have to accept how they feel, and that's only a figure of speech. I would be devastated if anything bad was happening to Lila. Devastated if I was to wake up one morning and get a phone call from the police and say that she's been run over or something bad has happened. You know, you wouldn't want that. No one would want that for any of their children. No one wants them sort of phone calls.
I'm lost about I'm lost about my kids, Chase. But
we all are. But are we really lost, or is it just something that we're? Is it just?
But if you've got to heal from trauma, and then you need to look for ways to heal from trauma that's involved with this, and the only way you can heal is how?
By giving love. By giving love.
It's just like I said. If you accept everything's temporary, your kids are going to grow up. And how does a relationship go when they grow up? You know, you see them once a week. You get a phone call.
You know what? You could have just as much of an impact on someone seeing them once a week if you had that quality time with them, and it's once a week, as what you would do if you saw them 5 days a week.
Okay, so there's one in 3 men commit suicide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over situations like this.
Yeah.
There's only one way you can get around that, is to change people's mindset on the situation. And the only way you can change that mindset is if you quite literally detach. Like, genuinely, right? My first daughter, yeah, I don't remember how it feels to cuddle her. Genuinely, I can't remember. I can't remember how it feels. I can't remember how she smells. I don't really know how she looks.
Your daughter? Well, which one?
Yeah, my oldest daughter, yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised. Because the person you'd be hugging and feeling and smelling now is not the same person you hugged and felt and smelt 2 years ago, whenever long it was.
So what's that called? Detachment.
No. Because ultimately, I guarantee you, when you see her next, it'll be like you've not been apart. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Everyone, I had the same feeling. I wouldn't see Lila. I don't know for sure how long it was, but it was between 2.5 and 3.5 years. Yeah, and I thought I wasn't, when I saw her after that, all that time. I thought it should forget who I was. I thought it should forget how, like, I was a dad and that sort of stuff. Everyone does. Everyone does. But you know what
your mind does, though. Like, obviously your mind has experienced that severe trauma, so your brain will come up with a coping mechanism, a way for you to deal with it, and it quite literally just buries it, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, mate, I don't remember how long I was drinking a lot. I know that much, but I wasn't. But the whole period of that time was totally blocked out of my body, in terms of how long was that period of time that I didn't see Lila for, because my body's blocked it out. It's too traumatic to keep going back there. And I was saying to someone the other day, like, when I'm speaking to people on the phone, sometimes they could be saying something, or they could do something, they could say whatever, and then that'll take me back, or I have to be like, stuff that happens will make me remember or remind me of what's happened in my own case. Every time I get to a final hearing, and I'm in court with someone, and the judge is doing their summing up, and they're doing their and they spend like an hour, 2 hours, whatever, doing it, and then they're saying stuff about you, they're saying stuff about your ex, and it's a roller coaster, because they're saying good stuff about you, and they're saying bad stuff about you. They're saying good stuff about your ex and bad stuff about your ex, and you don't know. It's a bit like that. I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. When they're like, bish bash bosh, it's not you.
But you're talking like everyone's going to get contact in the end, though. And there's
because
people out there that won't.
No. I'm telling you now. Everyone does get contact. I know they don't get contact. I know they don't. I know people don't. I know people who have not got contact. I know people who have got contact for a contact centre for 12 months, or a contact centre for 6 months, and have to make another application, or no contact whatsoever. and then have to make another application in 2 years' time, whatever. Or no contact whatsoever, and don't make another application again in your life. Otherwise, we're sending you to prison. So people, don't get contact, and I know that, but then I can't help but feel they don't get contact because there's things that are seriously wrong. Like they've either handled things wrong, they've been given the wrong advice, they've not taken responsibility for what the professionals or what other people deem them to be having to take responsibility for, because they don't understand what's happening, they don't understand why it's important to acknowledge and whatever. And if they can't acknowledge or self-reflect or see what's going on with society and see how they have to conform to society to a certain extent, then there's a problem. And that's
how does that person cope with it?
So they either kill themselves, or they drink themselves to silly illness, or they do whatever vice they take, or whatever. The people have got everyone's got different ways of coping. Suicide is one of them, obviously, definitely. Now, I go on Facebook and talk about shit. I do a podcast and do that shit. I do it for myself. I don't do it for anyone else. I do it for myself. What do you think keeps me alive? I was talking to when I first went through it. When I was in Lewisham, and I was talking to what was it called? I was talking to all customers. And when the customers first come into the shop, when I first went through it all, I couldn't look at anyone. I couldn't see anyone. I couldn't look at any mum and daughter. I would just start crying. Any mum and daughter, I would just start crying as soon as I saw them. Go back out in the shop, start crying, blah, 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 and then come back round again and start serving again. But then I'd start crying again, go back out the shop, and then until I got used to it, that's what it was. Same as when I went looking for Lila. That when it all first happened, I like the normal holiday club or breakfast, the holiday club that she'd go to. Then she wasn't put in that normal holiday club. So I was walking around Blackheath Estate, listening to kids' voices where you could try and hear like a playground in the back set. And I was walking around this estate for like 3 days, just trying to find this holiday club, this breakfast club. This holiday club it was. And that was on hot peak of summer. And it was like, mate, I found it. And then I started crying when I saw her. And they wouldn't let me hold her. And then it was like...
But Jace?
Yeah.
How did you cope with it?
Well, I'm still here now. I drank myself into a stupor, worked a lot, and then that was it. That's all I could do. I threw myself into work, started helping other people. No, I started helping other people as well. That's what started it, helping other people going through in court and that sort of stuff. I was rubbish at it, first of all. I mean, all I was doing, first of all, was turning up, helping people with their paperwork. Yeah, that wasn't the greatest back then either, because I hadn't been doing writing and that sort of shit for a long time. So I'm not being in school for a long time. My stuff isn't the greatest.
I think you're right. I think the only way you can get over it, I do think detachment's got a big fucking thing to do with it, right? But you need to have the ability to detach and reattach, which you can do. Yeah. Everyone can control that. But also, like, how else? We all find coping mechanisms, don't you? Like, I find coping mechanisms.
But I kind of think going out and helping other people is the best way of doing it. Helping somebody is the most difficult way of doing it, but then it's the best way. Nothing will make you feel better.
I think the best thing is to do self accountability, but not just that. Like, just you obviously accept my part and whatever, yeah. But still, like, I always say to like people, like, if someone's acted a certain way, if you then begin to understand why they act that certain way, it will help you to obviously move forward as well. Like, if you'll say like your ex did something to you to hurt you, if you look at the reasons as to why, and then if you look at the reasons as to why they would behave like that, if you look at the reasons as to why they think it would be acceptable for them to behave like that, if you look at their history, everything that goes with it, then like that for me was like quite healing. You've got to literally tear everything apart. It's like looking at a tree. You've got to look at the seed that grew the tree, the water that fell from the sky, to obviously, the soil that fertilized the tree. If you look at everything, don't just look at something and see a tree. Do you know what I mean?
No, you're not wrong.
And it makes everything so much better. If you just accept that not everyone's like, none of us think the same, do we really?
Mate,
You
that's what
know,
I'm
it's
saying to
just
people. We live in different dimensions. We live on the same planet, but we live in different dimensions. What I class
yeah,
acceptable and normal, other people may not. Other people might be
yeah.
like that. Like Lindsay, I don't see the way that she gives love is by materialistic things. By she's like a magpie. I compare her to a magpie. But culturally, that's what they do. That's what it is. They have they do all sorts of stuff that I'm like, that's a bit fucking stupid. But then I can't judge them for it. I can't be like hating on her for it because that's her normal. That doesn't make her wrong
But
for
again,
feeling or doing what she
though,
does.
Jase, right? But none of that stuff is permanent, is it? It's
Exactly,
all
exactly.
temporary.
It's only temporary.
It's all
Exactly.
and when you accept when you accept everything that is temporary, then you can really start to move forward in life. You can actually just start appreciating the things that are around you, and then it's just the best way to live.
You're not wrong.
You
You're
know,
not wrong.
like I had a lot of money last year, all gone. You know, then I got this year again to start again. If I just sit there every day going, "Oh my God, I lost so much bloody money. Oh my God," you know, like it destroy my vision moving forward. Like my attitude would be negative instead
Yeah.
of being positive, and then sorting my ass out, going right, okay, well, yeah, it was bad. We got through this. We put things in place, and we're going to move forward with another plan, and we're gonna like make sure that we're better this time. That's what life is, man. It's doing
Yep.
that situation again, but you do it better, and you move forward. You learn from your mistakes, and you just try not to do the same thing that you did before, and then you can
That's what
just
it's
move
about.
forward. You
Mate,
know,
that's what you
like
can do. That's all life's about. That's all life is about. You're moving forward and trying to be better. Trying to be better than yourself yesterday, better than
how many
yourself.
men
People,
out there?
too many people try and compete with somebody else. Too many people try and
Yeah,
you have your aspirations, you have your things that you want to be like, and you're always trying to learn from someone better or bigger, and you need to know who they are. But ultimately, that doesn't mean you go around pulling them down. So everyone's got an inspirational person they turn to. Like that. So for example, like it would probably be Liam Gallagher is probably one of mine, and then but then Gary V's one of them, and then there's like so many people. There's so many people like there's so many people like that are sort of inspirational to me, and sort of I think they're fucking good leaders and whatnot, and people that I would aspire to be. But then there's so many people that aren't that are not sort of well-known names. Like you are inspirational. There's people
oh,
there's my clients are inspirational. There's loads of people that inspire me when I'm speaking to them, and they don't have to necessarily be big names or successful celebrities, or whatever, to be inspirational. And I think that's the thing that pisses me off, because like people have got all these big people who are big names, whatever, that they inspire to be or aspire to be like, and try and be like one. And I believe everybody has got good qualities, and everyone wants to be good, but everyone gets either sucked into being negative because they think that's the right thing to do. They think that's the right way to behave because everyone else is going to like them more or whatever, rather than just being like, do you know what? Let it be, let it be. Whatever's going to be is going to be. Do you know what I mean? Because ultimately, nothing really matters.
my best advice to anyone would be if you're in a negative, toxic environment, just run, run, fight or flight, flight. Don't fight, flight. And you know, like, what's our biggest things? You know, in life, like, look at you, Jace. Right, you haven't had any more kids. You haven't got misses. Why? Because you have fear. And if you actually like looked into that fear and accepted it, and then worked with it, like maybe you could feel like none of us want to approach our fear, do we?
What do you mean fear? I don't. I don't have no fear. I don't live in fear. I've got no fear over nothing. I don't give fear to no one. Nothing. I'm not. Literally, there's no fear.
would you
I
have more
choose not to
kids?
get into a relationship. I'm more fearful
Yeah,
of the
but
cat
why?
smell than I am of anything else. Yeah,
Why?
but I choose not to have a relationship with a woman. I choose not to
But
have a
why?
relationship with anybody. I choose to work my nights because that's what I
Why?
want to do. It's not fearful. It's because I'm enjoying my life. I'm not living in fear. I enjoy myself. I enjoy working for them. I enjoy
I
being a cat.
reckon,
Huh?
I reckon out there, there's people like there's other men or whoever, yeah, who've been alienated by like their kids been alienated, and and then they're probably scared to re-engage in a new relationship and try again and have another kid
No,
because
no.
they're
Well,
scared it's
yeah,
going to happen
yeah.
again.
Well, that's
There's
fair.
hundred
That's.
percent, man. And I just think it's just not good, is it?
I just think I've been in a
I
relationship. I've been in a relationship like for two. I'm enjoying being single, and there's no one that's knocked me off my feet yet. That's made me like that made me think to myself that there's no that makes me think to myself I would have more fun enjoying myself with you than what I would do helping the people that I help. And there's one thing that no one will be able to ever be able to um, make me feel better. Like I help people. Yeah, it pays the bills, whatever. But I help people because it makes me feel good. and there's people that I help that that need help and whatnot, and I do stuff that I don't whatever. But ultimately, that makes for so I do it for myself, and I do it because I makes me get through my days and whatnot, helping others. But
I
you,
know a guy. I know a guy that went through what I went through, what I'm going through, or whatever. Yeah, and he's dead. I don't know. I don't directly know him, but I know of him, and he's dead. And I just think that I'd love to. I would have loved to have had a conversation with him. You know that there is a way forward, Joe. That Chase, like I believe, like there's always a way forward. Mindset's
there's
everything,
everything,
isn't it?
mate. Even if you take small steps forward, even there's people I'm seeing comments. I'm not on Facebook, but I'm seeing people who have logged into StreamYard. And I can see stuff there. Lose them mentally, don't build up from there. Yep, I totally agree. And I'm damaged for life now. I can't see who these people are. They're just as Facebook users.
Yeah,
Um, but we are damaged. Well, you can choose to be damaged for life. That's what. Okay, so
yeah.
you can choose to be damaged, right? There's two things. You can say you're damaged, fine. And I went through forever saying I was damaged. That's not a problem. But then you can also say it's a
Who
rebirth. It's
told
a
you you're
rebirth. I'm
damaged?
reborn. I'm reborn. I'm actually not damaged. I'm actually better than I was
Yeah.
before. I'm actually
Yeah,
better
so
than
that's what I
I'm
mean. Like
faithful.
my situation now. I'm not reacting the same way I reacted 5 years ago. A, I'm 5 years older now. B, I'm a bit long in the tooth for it all. C, I see it coming. D, I see the red flags a lot faster now. E, like it ain't a great situation, but I can like sort of shift the problem a bit better this time. And I know, like deep in my heart, like as long as I can do everything I can, as long as everything, I try and do everything with best intentions I can, not react to the bullshit, not bite when when they're throwing me a line all the time, and just try and just move forward. You know, you can be at peace with yourself, and I feel like if you feel at peace with yourself, you should be able to move on without feeling damaged. Because yeah, like you 1 in 3 people commit suicide, Jace. 1 in 3 men in these situations.
Well, that's what Gary's
That's
just
a
put there. Look,
really
he said, I would be dead. I'd be dead if I hadn't met Jason, who gave me hope. Mate, it wasn't hope, Gary. You got fucking. There's not. That's not hope, mate. It's not hope. But there's the job done, mate. There's no issues. There's going to be no problems with your situation, and I guarantee it. And this is what makes me laugh. This is what does my head in. This is what confuses me, right? You've had such a bad experience, first of all, in court, Dan, right? Your first time round. But then
yeah.
but then this time round, well, the same thing. But then since
I
I've been
said to
working
someone
with
the other
you,
day.
it's been much
I
better. It's
said
been
to yeah,
smoother.
yeah.
Yeah, but because it's
I
about
said
how
to
you
someone
go
the other
through
day.
court. It's about how it's. So it doesn't
Yeah,
matter. It doesn't matter like what your situation is. I've had people who failed their drugs test on their final fucking drugs test, and I've had 2 or 3 of them now, like literally fail them, and they still get contact. It's supervised contact, and it's supervised contact in the
listen, like
contact centre
I
until the next application to
like I
court.
said to you yesterday about drug testing though. Like I've always said, like, do you remember when we was at school? Like they bring that briefcase of drugs in. Do you remember? I don't know if they did it at your school, but I did it at mine. They'd be like, oh, this is heroin. This is crack
Oh yeah,
cocaine.
yeah, yeah. Like
This
they
is it.
still
Do you
they still
remember that?
do that.
Yeah.
They still do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and they sit down. But I said, all right, well, why they say to us, but why would someone take crack cocaine? And you'd be like, you just sit there as a kid, you go, well, I don't fucking know. And like, but as you get older, obviously, you understand, don't you? Like, you think, oh, maybe they had mental health problems. They did crack cocaine because it made them feel better. It was that quick fix. I got a mate who died of drug, like basically he was a cocaine addict, and then he replaced it with alcohol. And I know, and someone said to me yesterday, so why do you think you did cocaine? I was like, because obviously he's been through parental ADHD as well. And I said, well, I reckon it was because he did the cocaine because it made him feel better. It eased the anxiety and it gave him the confidence back to almost like give him a little bit of his life back as control. And then he replaced it with alcohol
Yep.
because he ran out of money, and he was still chasing that sort of hit, right? But these people that are taking drug tests and then failing them, why aren't they sitting there going, "Oh fuck me, you failed a drug test"? Instead of throwing a book at them, why are they not sitting down and going, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that. Let's sit down. Let's talk about this sort of shit. How can we make it better?" That's the only way we're going to get better. No one like I'm telling you now. I know from personal experience. I know addicts. Yeah, nobody chooses to be an addict.
Yep.
It's not a choice. Someone wakes up every day and goes, "Oh, I want to sniff 10 lines of gear today. Oh, I want to go get smashed today." My best mate died, and he was like, "Oh, Dan, I hate alcohol. I hate drinking. I hate it. I just promise me you'll never drink." He was an alcoholic. He couldn't stop drinking. Do you think he woke up every day and said to me, I want to get pissed today"? He never said it, mate. He didn't want to get drunk, but he had to get drunk. And it gets
Well,
to the point where
yeah.
alcoholics are coming off alcohol, and they're giving them Libriums to stop the shakes and stuff. You know that and then they get hooked on Librium as well, and the NHS gives it to them. Then you watch your mate hooked on Librium, hooked on alcohol, and then they go to places like the Avalon or whatever. But the only thing, like, I knew another alcoholic who survived, but then he had a heart attack when he sobered up, which is mental. But he said the only thing that ever helped me, Dan, was Alcoholics Anonymous, because I got there and I got to talk to people. Why? Why was it good to talk? Because it's good for his mental health. And if you don't fix that mental health issue, the addiction's not going away. And then to penalise someone for failing a drugs test is outrageous.
Well, mate,
It's outrageous,
well,
James.
they didn't really. Well, I think when no, but you got to think this is like blue sky thinking. This is blue sky thinking. So you've got people shouldn't be if there's a recreational usage for everything. Let's just put it like that. There's a recreational usage for everything, and I think people do get. My ex-wife, recreational usage is all recreational. But then if you're going over that, if you go over that, then you are. Mate, you're meant to be capable parents. You're meant to be capable parents. You're not supposed to be doing that shit with your kids around. Imagine if how would you feel if you had like cocaine there, and then your kid picks it up and then takes it, and then it dies. Fucking hell, that's manslaughter, surely.
Yeah, but then why were they doing it? That's what I'm saying.
Why
Though.
I
I
can't
don't
argue with
believe,
you.
I
I'm saying
don't
this.
believe. I genuinely, right, I believe the majority of the country's got mental health issues. That's what I believe, and I believe people take drugs to alleviate those issues. I'm sorry, right, but you show me someone who recreational does drugs or whatever who hasn't got mental health issues.
Mate, everyone. I said this to you the other day. I said something the other day. Whether it be alcohol or whether it be drugs, people doing them because they're mixed up with their past. They've not come to terms with their history. There's stuff they're trying to cope with. So, for example, when I was drinking a lot, I was drinking a lot because I wasn't at peace with myself. But now I don't even find myself needing a drink at all. Do you know what I mean? If I'm at a party, there's a line of Coke going around. Yeah, do you know what? I'll have a fucking line of Coke, whatever. But ultimately, I'm not going to go out and buy it. I don't need it. Does that make sense?
I
And
know someone. I know someone who's in a court case in process who failed a drug test. He tried to commit suicide because he had drugs in his system, and then he had to go get a drug test to prove he was clean. What?
But
No, mate.
that's down to the fact that their expectations have been led wrong. That's down to the fact that their expectations are way up and their expectations should be managed correctly.
It's just bad, mate. There should be more mental health fucking work out there.
Mental health is in a fucking shit place. I'm not being funny. Why would you not? I've had so many people want to fucking phone me up and say, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't even know if the child's even mine, and I'm fighting for the child, and I don't even know if it's mine or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the reality. That is the reality.
What leads us to it, though, Jason?
Huh?
What leads all these people to all these issues?
It's upbringing. It's a childhood, isn't it? It's a childhood. It's that's what it
Okay,
is.
yeah, that's great. Yeah, it is. And what do I say all the time? It's easier to fix broken children than it is to fix broken adults.
People need to be focused on the education of children. They need to focus on education of the children. And you know what? Do you know what I think? You're going to hear this here first, right? The law change, right? You know they're making out now that the kids are kids who are around domestic violence or domestic abuse are victims, yeah, of the victims of domestic violence or domestic abuse just by purely being around them. They're talking about mediation being a thing. Mediation being a thing before you get into court and putting extra time in mediation before you get in. And I sort of agree to a certain extent that people need to, and we're not in the world now, we're not in this world now at all, but we need to, people need to be able to come together and collaborate rather than pull apart, because we're put against each other. You put against each other for fighting against each other in the courts, for kids, for fucking finances, for the home. You put against each other rather than putting each other against each other. Put each other to collaborate with each other. So it's changing the behaviour, changing the action, and rather than putting each other to fight, you're collaborating. And although it's difficult because you're separated, if you've got children, then that's what you have to do. Because if you can't do that, then your children are going to get taken off you. It's going to be literally that simple.
Yeah, but in these court situations, the problem is, man, when a solicitor gets involved, they're actually encouraging people to fight with each other.
Man, that's it. So the solicitor, this is the part of the problem. This is the problem. Solicitor, I've got so many cases now where the solicitors are making things worse because they're inciting the parent to make things difficult and make it hard for the child.
And why is that? Because the longer the case goes on,
hard for them to resolve the conflict. Other people that haven't even had conflict, and then suddenly, fucking hell, it gets out of hand, and it's all been instigated by the fucking solicitor.
yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's jokes,
And
but
how is
this is
that
what
right?
people need to remember: is literally the law is going to get tighter on children being victims through adult conflict, because that's what's impacting the children. And if we're aware, and the crazy thing is, we're all aware of it. We're all aware of it, right? But then when we get put into the eye of the storm and we're in the middle of it, and we're actually there, and what pisses me off more than anything else, and this isn't always the case. This is not always the case, but the exaggeration and fabrication on some people's parts is always really frustrating. Yeah, whether that be the male or whether that be the female, people who don't own their shit and then just want to put all the shit on everyone else's doorstep is
Yeah,
just
but
like
without doubt,
amazing.
yeah, people shouldn't argue in front of their kids without a fuck, and it is damaging, Jason. It is. That is the bottom line. And people do need to accept that.
It's down to each individual parent. And look, I can say that me and my ex, we've damaged my daughter. Malala's damaged, yeah, because she hates it. And I think she hates this time of year because this is coming up to the time of year when it was when me and her mum separated. Third of August, 2013.
I'm impressed you remember the date.
Well, mate, I'm never going to forget it. It's the day that my world turned upside down, isn't it?
I
The
find that
biggest
quite
problem is that
respectful.
this lot of occasions, both parties in these situations, they're unable to be honest with themselves, let alone each other and the cause. There you go. That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Say again.
The biggest problem with this is in a lot of occasions, both parties in these types of situations is they're unable to be honest with themselves. And if they're unable to be honest with themselves, they're not going to be honest with each other and they're not going to be honest with the courts. And that's going to be the problem when it comes to trying to get the parents to mediate and try and sort things out more before going into court, because that's they're trying to slow things down in court, still trying to get people out of court, and people need to stay out of court, but people go to court so easily now, but they don't realise there's an article that came out.
How many people in an argument are going, do you know what? I'll take you to court. It's just fucking stupid.
How many people, mate? I've got a couple of cases now. They've got contact. They've negotiated contact between themselves. The non-residing parent is then fed up with jumping through hoops of fire, and then fed up with being fucking told that he's a shit parent, but there's no fucking safeguarding concerns at all, apart from the ones in the mind of the fucking residing parent. And the problem with that is, if you put that, how does the residing parent put that on a spectrum? How does the residing parent understand what's going on in the rest of the world? And the rest of England, the rest of England at least, in terms of what bad looks like and what good looks like. Does that make sense? So you're saying, because everyone's saying, so for example, you cannot have a go at a woman or make a woman who is the mother of a child, you can't complain at her for saying that she has got safeguarding concerns about her ex-husband or boyfriend or whatever, because of whatever reason, for whatever reason, right? It could be the most minimal thing ever in our view, but in her view, it's the biggest thing ever, because her parenting standards may be different, or she's just trying to instigate bullshit, trouble, whatever. That's more likely. That's what it feels like at the time. That's what it feels like. But maybe, just for argument's sake, what if she is really, that is their parenting standards and styles, and that is her standard? Well, if that is the case, then you would know that that would be her standard and styles, because it'd always be the way. And so that sort of defeats that argument, actually. But ultimately, the problem you have is that these residing parents, generally the mum, will make it so difficult for the dad to actually be the parent and actually get equal rights and be equally respected as the parent. That's the issue. That's the proper issue, because so many.
But I've got something else that says that. Okay, so if they feel like that, yeah, then why do they want child maintenance money as well?
Because this is the system sets it up. The system allows it. This is the problem.
So I think if you behave like that, A, you should go to prison, and B, you shouldn't be entitled to any maintenance money. You can't be paid, right? This is what's wrong with the system. You get paid.
The contract you sign into when you get into a relationship, the contract you sign into is you're automatically on the back foot, because you're automatically at a disadvantage, because the contract you sign into when you have a marriage or when you have a child with somebody is that if they fuck this up, they get a better deal. So they're going to almost be encouraged to fuck it up. And that's the wrong way of going into any sort of negotiation.
Yeah.
Is the family system only against men, then not women too? No, it's not against men. It's not against men, and it's not against women. It's in favour of the children.
It's against men. It's
10%. Everything's against.
Everything's
Everything's against. The
It's
law.
10%.
Look at the men are perceived as being ogres. We are perceived as if there was no law in place, then we would go around eating women and children for breakfast every day. Yeah, and that's what we all get treated like. And in some cases, you know, people might need laws in place to protect themselves.
Men lose their home. Men lose child contact. Men end up fucking paying the bill. That's how it is.
I keep speaking about her though. I keep speaking about her because
How many women do you know? How many women do you know out there? How many women out there do you know that lost their house, had to pay their husband more money than they've ever had in their lives, and they'd lose child and then won't let them see the kids either? How many? I can't tell you one woman I know that's happened to. Not one. But I could tell you at least 30 off the top of my head, men that it has happened to.
That's what I'm saying. It's daily. Right? Look, my missus works in family law and she fights for men every day and wins. I fight for men every day and win. That's what I'm saying. This is my problem. This is my point. People go to court and they're having horror shows. I don't see how they have horror shows because I'm not getting horror shows. Yes, things don't go right, things don't go to plan, but ultimately, when things don't go to plan, it's because we haven't planned properly. If you're behaving the right way, if you're doing the right stuff, if you're behaving yourself, then ultimately things you do what you need to do, and expectations are set thoroughly, and you get the results you need to get.
Stage one.
Huh?
Stage one, acceptance.
Acceptance. Yeah. You got to accept the system as what it is. You need to understand the system. And if you don't understand the system, you can't accept it.
Don't fight it. Accept it. Work with it.
Work with it.
That's the only way you get through it.
Yep.
I promise you. And that's what I said to someone the other day. I said, I wish I knew what I know now. I wish I knew 5 years ago, because then I'd have contact with my elders right now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. I kept resisting. Resist. And they were going, contact centre, like on a Section 7 report. And they're going, you what? I've had her in my custody like the majority of the time, and now I've got to go contact centre. Oh no, but I should have jumped through the hoops. I should have been the monkey boy, done as I'm told. And that's it.
Yeah. And the system's right. The system does protect children. If there was something going wrong, the problem is with the system. It protects the children. This Christopher Smith has got quite quick picture self. Send you a link there, Christopher. There's a link there. Somewhere if you want to join in. But the system is set up to support children, because the residing parent is generally the mum. I've got more than enough cases where the residing parent is the dad. Yeah, and the mum is just not around at all. Yeah, and don't get wrong, the men have to do more with social services.
Very rare, isn't it?
We get challenged more with social services. We have to do a lot more to prove that we're worthy parents. When I lived in my care, social services were all over me, like literally. But then, as soon as a woman turns up, that was years ago. As soon as Lindsay comes back and go over to Lindsay, it was a case of Lindsay doesn't want to work with them anymore, so she doesn't want to have to. So she doesn't have to.
Mate, why? Okay, I'll answer another question. Right? Why isn't there 1 in 3 women committing suicide, but there's 1 in 3? Because they've
got other ways of dealing with it.
If the system is not pro women, why is there not that many women committing suicide? Tell me.
And if the system has hurt you, it's because of you. This Christopher. Can you see these comments? There's Christopher. He's all over it, man. He's not wrong. He's not wrong at all. He's not wrong. It's exactly what I've said to people. If I was going through the system at the very beginning, fighting it and doing all sorts of shit, and it was going wrong, and it was because of the fact that my first case was the worst case, because I literally could act like an idiot in court, out of court, protests, you name it. I was doing it, and that's why it prolonged. And that's why if you behave yourself, you do what you need to do, then ultimately you get to where you need to go.
But you know what? Like 5 years on, I'm behaving myself, and I'm doing, and I accept it, and I do see the better, My ex isn't, but guess what? It's still playing in her favour.
Yeah, I'm speaking about her though. It's a figure of speech. I'm trying to be. If you listen carefully, Christopher. If you listen carefully, that I'm speaking about her. I'm actually saying them and the non-residing parent as well. Yeah. So, feel free to come on, Chris, and have your say. Because 5 years on, you're behaving yourself. I don't know if this is a troll or if he wants to jump in or get involved or what. But because 5 years on, you're behaving yourself. You should have done that 5 years ago. Well, a bit of a troll, really, I think. But, okay, so feel free, Chris, to come on. But people, no one. There's a link there, Chris, man. There's a link there. No one's perfect. And I'm quite sure that 5 years on, people can People make mistakes. I make mistakes. My shit stinks. Like the next person's, I'm quite happy to say that I make mistakes, and I made mistakes when I first went through the court process. That's why I'm able to say now with 100% fact that people can go through family court and get a realistic outcome depending on the situation in hand. You just have to follow the basic steps that I do, but then people don't do it because the majority of people are born, we're inbred from the moment we're born, indoctrinated. From look at on Disney, look at Disney, look at everything's set up to show what you behave like when you separate. Yeah, look at then you get older and you got EastEnders and you got Neighbours and all these soaps that you people behave like that when you separate, so people behave that way, and then that's how the people behave, and then suddenly you've got a system of people behaving like an idiot, and you got women behaving a certain way when they separate, or men behaving a certain way when they separate. In some cases, men being abusive. In fact, a lot of cases, men are more abusive to women than what men they are to, it swings and roundabouts. It's absolute swings and roundabouts. Absolute like 10, but ultimately it all comes back to ourselves and how we behave and what we deem as acceptable at the time. And I've said to Lila many times now, I regret shit, but unfortunately her mum doesn't take responsibility the way I do, and I can't force her mum to do that. I can't force people to take responsibility. It has to be something that comes naturally, and I can own that stuff as I want to, as I can. People can learn and grow. You're right, absolutely they can. And it's not about work; it's about working together and not chastising the system. I can share the link again. 1 second, I'll just put it in there. 1 sec.
Can you hear me?
Can you send a link on the group there, Dan, or whatever? Because this person wants to come on. I'm intrigued to see. Oh, the comments have stopped. Why have they stopped the comments? Oh, a minute. Switch. Oh, why is it not commenting? Why don't I get it? Yes, if you go up on the, it's not letting me comment. I don't know what's going on with my fucking shit. This again is my. It's my I don't know what's this. Okay. It's not letting me comment. It's not letting me comment. Can you put the comment in there? Complaining about the current circumstances and give glue that's attached to it. Can you put the group? Can you put that? Can you leave a comment say on with the thing I sent you?
The link.
Yeah. There's Dan's going to put a link in there. I put it in there earlier, but my phone's not letting me do it, and I'm not very good with technology myself. So, all technology is not being very good to me at the moment, should we say? Complaining about your current situations is the same glue that keeps you attached to it. Exactly that. I like that. That's a fucking good point. I like that. When we do not take personal responsibility, we are stuck in the grief and anger. To me, victim mentality. Absolutely, I agree. Bang on. You have to own your shit, man. You have to own your shit and literally try and be better from it and try and learn from it. That's all you can do. People have got no right to criticize or condemn people for it. I don't believe that's fair, because no one's perfect. No one's perfect. But ultimately, people feel it necessary and fair that they can go around and criticize and condemn others for it. That's up to them. But I just don't think anyone's got the right to criticize or condemn anyone, really. I just think it's about accepting where we are, accepting the mistakes you've made. If people have made genuine mistakes and they're genuinely sorry, then they say sorry, and their actions will speak louder than the words. That what they do and how they will deliver their apology will be more valuable than any word, if that makes sense. When we give up blame to transcend to me, there you go, mentality. And he's there. There you go. There you go. Yeah.
I did it. The link's in there.
That's this. I like that. So this is good. This is. Have you shared the link again, Dan?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, good. There you go. So it's there somehow, somewhere. Yeah, it's there. The link's there. So I don't know where he's gone again. He disappeared, but then I don't know how he sent it to me. I don't know if he sent it to me. Okay, comments. Trying to do achiever mode. So if you go to, hang on a minute, one sec. I don't know how this is going to work because you might have to just type it. One minute, Dan. 1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute. Save. There you go. That's the code to get in. I couldn't do it. I don't know how else to do it. So it's like that's the only way I could get it there. That works. I don't know. So whoever wants to come in, there's a code. If you're brave enough to take on Dan and Dan's ferocious anti-woman campaign.
That's not anti-women campaign at all.
But no, of course it's not. No, mate, but you're right. You're not wrong in what you're saying. Some of the things you're saying make sense. And I think again, people can interpret our words however they want to. People can find good in it. They can find bad in it.
Statistically, children are at a disadvantage without their fathers in their lives.
Of course they are, 100%. Mate, single mums are shit parents statistically. Yeah, look at what Lila's attendance was. Look at Lila's attendance. Look at Lila's attendance when I'm not involved with it. Yeah. Look at Lila's education when I'm not involved with it. She tries taking me out of it. She tried taking me out of it, and then it dropped. It dropped down dramatically. I'm back involved again, and literally, it's gone back up again. It's all green. It's all green. It's all green. Yeah, the attendance is still shit for the year, and it doesn't help when she goes to school late and whatnot. But then that's because they're being firmer with her. I've asked them to be firmer with her. Before lateness wasn't taken down as a non-attendance. Now lateness is taken down as non-attendance because we need to get her doing what she needs to do. She can't just have the fucking turn up when I want and have that whole attitude of shit like that. That's not how the world works.
Statistically, children are at a disadvantage without a dad in their life.
100%. And mums are shit single parents because they lose control of the kids. They lose control. They make the kids the parent. They make the kids the parent. I don't know who this is, but we've got someone called Chris coming in. This is going to be interesting. Come on then. There we are. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you. I'm actually Chris's girlfriend. I'm not.
That's fine. Okay, no worries.
As you can see.
Yeah, sure.
This is getting juicy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. So how are you?
I'm not here to chastise you or berate you.
Go for
it. Here to understand.
Yeah.
So I work in family and criminal law.
Yeah.
And actually, most of my cases are fathers. We are defending the fathers, and we're successful in that. They have residency and they are fighting to keep residency, and they are successful in showing, in a lot of cases, that the mum is not fit to have the children.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
There's a lot of ways. So you get experts in. So that could be medical. It could be financial. Schools, doctors. So many different reports that we, if we go to a court and we say this mum is not fit to have this child, you can't go baseless, or you can't say she's got mental health problems, but not have some kind of evidence behind that. So when a dad comes to us and says, at the moment, I've got my daughter 2 nights a week, but I don't feel like she's safe when she goes back to her mum's the other 5 nights of the week, and I want to show that, you obviously cannot just go to the court and say she's not safe. There has to be things put in place to show that. There's evidence, there's character witnesses, there's the doctors, there's many things. I would be keen to understand from your standpoint how you feel that the legal system in terms of family law has not worked for you.
I'd say it's not. I'd say it's worked for me fine. I think it's worked for me fine. The only time it hasn't worked for me is when I was behaving like an idiot, which is why I go through court now. Which is why when I'm in the position I am in with myself now, helping people going through family court, not making the same mistakes that I made. I think that's the most important thing. Is that and I need to just retract something quickly before I get in too much trouble. Not all single mum parent families. There's a
Yeah,
generalisation
no.
that I
So
made.
can I
Yeah,
just say I
that's a
did hear
generalisation.
you say statistically that single mums aren't great.
Statistically,
No, statistically that's completely wrong.
no, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
Statistically, if you
Can
look
I-
at the stat, if you look at the
can
stats, okay, I'll let you speak. I'll let you speak.
Okay,
Statistically, if you look
can
at the
I
stats, we can probably
where
pull
you've
them
got
up.
those statistics.
What the Office of National the ONS, yeah. So if you look at how children perform in
Yeah.
school without a dad being around, mums generally struggle to manage and actively encourage education, because men are more educationally prone and more likely to educate and positively promote education than what mums do. That's one of the strengths that dads have.
So
Yeah.
I understand that, but that is kind of the way that you have portrayed that is kind of depicting that single mums making a run for their own back. But there's a lot of single mums
That's
out
not how.
there that
That's
are
not. If
choosing
that's not.
to be in that
Okay.
way. And
If that's how it's been interpreted, that's not how it's intended. I've just been pulled up by my mate Claire, my mate in there, Claire, and I was a single parent for years, and she's brought up Louise absolutely fine, which is why I've redacted and gone back and said that it's a generalization. It's not all parents. Same as not all men are bad. Not all women are bad. You're going to get good people. You're going to get bad people. That's just life. And I think I don't depict family law as being bad. I think I used to definitely, but now it's more a case of.
Family law used to be very fluid. It was a one-way track. It was very in favour of the mothers all the time.
Yeah.
The courts ruled that because stereotypically, when family law, was first came about, there was a husband and a wife, and the husband would leave the family home, and the wife would still be there. But family law nowadays is very different because there aren't husbands and wives. People don't get married anymore. People have children together and they separate. And actually now the family courts are very much in favour of the men as they are women. But I can understand.
I don't think my personal experience is, even from when I behaved badly in court for my first time round, my first ever case with Fathers for Justice.
When you say behave badly,
I was doing stuff with Fathers for Justice. It wasn't with my relationship. My relationship was, I was equally as much of a victim as what I didn't realise I was a victim, if that makes sense. Yeah. My relationship with my ex-wife was toxic. And we were going, that's well aired and whatnot anyway. But ultimately, my behaviour when I was going through the process, with Fathers for Justice, and the things I was doing with Fathers for Justice was not helping my case. Doing protests and things like that, throwing stuff around the courtroom was not helping. So so that sort of behaviour, that sort of conduct made my case go on much longer than what it needed to, much longer. And if I had have just understood the system and understood that I was getting given the wrong guidance and the wrong, because no one wants. Did you have
a solicitor? Did you have a solicitor?
No, Matt O'Connor was my Mackenzie friend. So we were doing some crazy shit, and that's the problem. And that's the problem with the world, because they've normalised the wrong way of going through family court. People normalise going through that court that way, and then they get bad results, and then they wonder why they've got bad results. But the reality is, if they went through the family courts in the right way, with a certain amount of respect, with only your shit, being humble, respecting, finding common ground, trying to taking the moral high ground, making sacrifice, making compromise, being child focused. When I say child focused, like proper child focused, there'll be no conflict between the parents if you're both being child focused. And that's the reality. But when you leave a relationship, no one is in that frame of mind. And solicitors, as far as I'm concerned, make it 10 times worse in some cases. In fact, in a lot of cases, they make it 10 times worse.
I think it really depends on the
legal aid.
Go to. Well, for example, I work for a firm where we don't offer legal aid. I don't work for a legal aid firm. I can signpost people to really amazing legal aid firms, but we don't. And we have an initial first meeting, and for example, it could be a mum or a dad that will sit with us, and they will tell us the general situation, the situation of the children, the living situations, the financial situation, and we're not going to lie to somebody, because ultimately it's our time in court as well, and we don't want to put anyone under false hope. I can't speak for the legal aid system because I've never worked in it and how that works. In the area that I work, if somebody comes to, well, we do all sorts. So we do, you know, divorce, financial, cohabitation, and then child act. If somebody comes to us with a situation involving children, we do not care what the husband or wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, man, woman, auntie, grandma, granddad says to us. The
Got a child.
first concern is the children. And it is ensuring that it doesn't matter what you say to me or what grandma says to me or what auntie says to me. It's what the children think, feel.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, there's a lot of situations where the child thinks they're best somewhere and actually that's not best. And that's where, you know, you get your expert witnesses to come in who will do reports. That's where, and ultimately that's where your judge sits. We can make an amazing case, but ultimately it's what the judge in the family court circuit says as to what they feel is correct.
Well, I mean, would you not say that the decisions are made not in the courtroom, no? Like the professionals and that sort of stuff?
No, absolutely. No, those decisions aren't, the judge makes the ultimate decision. Obviously, what the reports that are made can sway that decision. Absolutely. And if you approach an expert witness as, and the same in criminal, if you are on the defence.
Criminal law is way better than family law. Way better.
It's
way more fair.
It's more. It's not though. It's not because his.
It
So I
is.
both.
It's down. Criminal law is down to reasonable doubt. Family law is down to probability, which is a load of bullshit. It's bollocks. I've had professional reports, yeah, that say what I say, and I've had a judge rule against it. So, but if that was criminal law, that wouldn't happen. And I can guarantee you, I've been arrested multiple times, yeah, for false allegations, 35 in fact, yeah, and 35. Never had a problem, yeah.
He counts,
never had count allegations, yeah, not one stuck, right? In family law, they go, oh well, you know, well maybe it did happen, you know, but it transpired. I'm actually a victim of domestic abuse myself, and I got picked by the next narcissist that actually picked me because you knew what I went through, and now my whole life's at a disadvantage because of that, because we're being picked because they know the system's so in favour of the mum. And it is, and I'm sorry, like
the thing is,
how much do you charge for a first hearing?
It would depend if who you had represent you. So we would have a partner, a solicitor.
Why?
Different ranks. Well, it depends what rank of solicitor you have that represents you. They charge a different hourly fee.
Surely if you've all got the interest of the child in, it doesn't matter what rank anyone is.
That's not criminal though.
Oh, what about family?
Yeah, but you just said, well, for a family hearing.
Yeah, family first hearing, first dispute resolution.
Again, we've got different. It depends how. We've got different ranks of solicitors that charge different amounts because of their qualifications, and they're entitled to do that. They've worked very hard to charge those amounts. So if you wanted,
but they've got the interest of the child at heart. You know, they're sure they're not doing it for the money.
Well, no, because ultimately that's the world. It's business.
Exactly. Family law is a business. You hit the nail on the head.
But if you're concerned about the costings, then you go to legal aid. If you want to win, then you go to the high-ranking.
You don't need a I do not believe in the world that you even need a solicitor in family law. I just never will.
Solicitors prolong the situation, and then they make it worse.
There's nothing in the world. If you own your shit,
I paid £6,000 for one hearing once for a solicitor. £6,000.
That's mental.
Yeah.
If you're honest, if you're real, if you take responsibility, if you do all them behaviours I'm saying, then literally you don't need a solicitor because you own your own stuff. You take the argument away.
You've just said that you paid £6,000 for one.
Yeah, her name was Sally Pike. It was at Three Solicitors in Southampton, Romsey.
That's so
here's
another thing. It comes down to integrity. So the firm that I work for, and I'm not going to mention them, are incredible, and we have to make our money at the end of the day. We're not going to work for free. We're not legal aid. We're incredibly good. We're compassionate. We're understanding. If you are in dire straits and you come to us and you say, listen, I can't, like, we will reduce our fees, we will do what we can for you. For somebody to charge you £6,000 for one hearing, you got fully
done.
100%.
Literally.
That is not £6,000 we wouldn't even charge for a full criminal case, which includes magistrates, crown, bail hearings. We wouldn't even charge that for that. So for the fact you got £6,000 for one family appearance is mental. And that's a firm that does not hold integrity at heart. That's a firm that holds money at heart.
There you go.
I understand how you feel about the family legal system. That's why I understand that, because of that. But that's because you went to it's frustrating as somebody who works for a firm that truly cares. When you've been charged, because we would never do that. In fact, quite often we will stop. So we charge what's called WIP, which is work in progress. And every time we send an email, we do a phone call on the case, we can charge for it. Quite often, we will go well and above our estimated cost, and we will stop charging our WIP because we have a personal, we want to help. So we'll stop charging. The fact that somebody's charged you £6,000, I don't know.
We've got people coming in the comments here. Look, £5,000 for merely drafting a contempt court application, £18,000 for the first hearing, 15k as a starting point.
Can I just? I can't see these comments. I don't know where these comments are.
These are on the side here. But I don't think. I'll show you one second. I'll show you one sec. Across the screen now. Underneath my name, there you go. Just paid £18,000. And you got.
But when people are saying first hearing, I need to know what, a first hearing for what though.
Well, well, £6,000 in Portsmouth.
Each hearing in Portsmouth. Yeah, there you go.
Each hearing for what though? Hearing for what? That's the thing.
Yeah, these are the details that they need to get.
I mean, that's still crazy money.
I mean, I put an invoice in the group the other day. But as with everything in life, I totally believe that you get good people and you get bad people. You get good solicitors, you get people who want to do a good job. And I've come across them in court, and they're nice and they speak to me and whatnot, and they're respectful. But you get the idiots. You get the idiots just in it for the money and out to do it for themselves. As with everything in life, everything. And I think that's.
I can't. I'm not going to drop the firm name, but I work for a very reputable firm of solicitors. That money that people are putting in those comments isn't normal, and I would strongly suggest that anybody that feels that they have been overcharged contact the SRA.
But then going to the SRA when you're going through all this sort of stuff is not really
no, it's not.
something.
No, you're absolutely right. It's not. But then I would. So, for example, in my firm, we do a base cost. So when somebody comes to us at the start of the process and says, I'm getting divorced, I want to be able to take my children on a holiday, which goes against the current court order, or we will put a base cost down and we will say to you, the cost that we charge will never go above this. If it does, you will not be charged. If you are going to a solicitor that is sending you a client care letter at the start, so you should always get sent a client care letter, and within that client care letter, it'll tell you a few things. There'll be 3 levels of people on your file: the person who is your solicitor, the assistant, and the supervisor. That should always be on there, and there should always be a base level cost. Your estimate of cost is X amount. Read through the terms and conditions. If they go above that exponentially, that shouldn't be happening. I don't know what firms of solicitors.
There's loads. They're all over the place. This is my point. They're all over the place. I've dealt with them. I've done more for people who have used solicitors, and then they've come to me afterwards, and we've had more of a positive result doing things my way and doing things the way we go about it, which is the right way, which is working within the system and doing everything properly and with respect and everything and love and whatnot, and working on ourselves, than what the solicitors do.
The problem is, I think, when you go to a rogue solicitor who is a dickhead, they know that you're coming in panic and crisis.
That's it. They're vulnerable. People are vulnerable.
You will. So that is why you go to. So there might be a firm that charges higher, and for the initial stuff, it charges higher, and that'll put you off. But you always go for that firm because they will always only ever charge you up to the base rate. If you go to a crappy firm that looks really cheap to start off with, like the first hearing might be cheaper or the first consultation might be free, that's a big no-no. If you go to a reputable firm, they know that they don't need to charge you that much because they get the job done in the correct financial frame. You don't need to go into people that charge crazy amounts. They're the ones that you need to look out for.
I think that's part of the problem with the world that we are in. I think no matter what happens, you're going to get good. You're going to get people who take advantage. People who take advantage of the vulnerable, and people who genuinely want to try and help. And I think I've seen like a massive influx of people who are just Mackenzie fans who've never even been in court, and they don't, life has put them in that way, or whatever. And I don't see them doing positive things. I don't see them caring. I see them doing more damage than good. But there you go. That's life. That's life. As with everything. So yeah, and I guess to go back to the initial point, there's nothing wrong with the family law system. I just think it's people who don't know, people are getting taken advantage of by unscrupulous solicitors and people who don't behave in the right way and don't conduct themselves in the right way. That's what I would say.
I agree.
And that's the long and short of it. Dan, I think you would agree now because he's gone about it different approach more recently than what he has done previously, and he's seeing the differences. And that's and when people say to me,
we just know now that I think professional reports got a lot to do with the outcome, a lot.
Huh?
And we know that if you don't have a professional report backing up with what you're saying, you're pissing in the wind, aren't you?
Well, yeah. Well,
it depends on what you're stating as to whether you need a professional report. If you're going to go to court and say, if your defence is going to be my ex is mentally unwell, then of course there has to be something to back that up. Because how many times has an ex got a man or woman got pissed off and gone, oh, he's a psychopath, he's a narcissist.
Yeah. It's the first go-to thing. It's the go-to thing. Most narcissists can even be suffering from BPD and not narcissism at all. Because they're very similar. And maybe not even narcissists. Maybe not even narcissists. Maybe they're just dickheads. Maybe they're just really bad people. Because there is.
I'd rather sit in Crown Court than sit in family court every day of the week.
Well, you'd go to magistrates before you go to Crown, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying Crown Court's fairer than magistrates as well.
But it's a different area. That's the thing. Like family law typically is a minefield because there are so many different hoops you have to jump through.
We shouldn't be living in a system where it's down to probability when it comes to children. It should be reasonable doubt.
It isn't as much now. I agree with you that it used to be, but I don't feel like it is now. Just from working on cases myself, like I know now that you have to, as a man or a woman now, prove so much for that court to, and unfortunately, I think some of it will come down to finances. Maybe one party has more financial expenditure at their disposal so that they can fight harder than the other party can, which causes a problem.
I don't think you should get legal aid in family court just because someone's put you on managed to get you arrested.
I don't, like I say, mate. Again, it goes back to if you took solicitors right out of the equation, maybe had like a mediator doing what a solicitor can do.
You do. So before you can start,
you
have to have a mediator first.
Yeah, but then
you have to.
How many times does that happen?
Mediation before you can go to family court.
No, I get that. Okay, I understand that. I've been through, but then the point is, when you're going through the mediation, the residing parent will be dictating what contact looks like, and then
nope. You don't have to do that. You can completely mute their mediators. You can say I don't agree, and I would like.
Well, that's what we do. That's when people get. Agree, totally. That's exactly what we do. But when people don't know that because they're thinking they're getting told by solicitors that because naturally you think about it realistically, right? From the young age we're indoctrinated. Solicitors and judges, you get scared. It's a scary thing, or they've got authority. Yeah. So you're litigating in person, and you get a letter saying from your solicitor saying you've got to go. You're doing mediation. You're doing blah blah blah, and you're getting 2 hours a week. But there's no safeguarding concerns. They're not actually safeguarding concerns. They're actually just different parenting standards or styles. Yeah, and people get them mixed up because it's a basic.
With the children aren't present during mediation. You go to a mediation centre with a mediator. Children aren't there. You have to engage in mediation. If you don't engage in mediation, then they can take the next steps to court.
No, that's what I'm saying. But people are engaged in mediation, but then they're dictating what contact looks like. You're missing the point. So I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
But then grin and bear it, do the contact,
That's what I'm saying. People do, but then it gets to 8 months in a year, and then it's still going on, and it's still going on, and it's like that's the problem we're going to have when the law changes even more. So then that's what it should be, because we want to keep people out of family court. I think family court is worse for families than what it is good for them, yeah. But ultimately, the residing parent, generally the mum, will have more say over what contact looks like than what the non-residing parent will have.
Yeah, they will do you right if that's
yeah.
that's
so
who
then
the child is currently with, because the way that
yes, but then
the system sees it is that the residing parent knows what routine and
you create the routine. So exactly, so you create the routine, blah blah blah. So you can, like, for example, put my daughter in every single after school club possible. Yeah, that routine wasn't there before, and then suddenly every single after school club happens. Yeah, so that routine is changing. So when you get people like that who put obstacles in the way and obstruct things,
you know the best way to avoid that, though, the best, and I'm speaking as someone who has got 2 children and is separated and has gone through the whole co-parent, like working out the best way to co-parent after a separation. It's hard work. Is to just be grown-ups and remember you may be each other's exes, but your child is not your ex. Your relationship. So you've got a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, fiance relationship, but your child doesn't have that relationship with either of you, and you are both parents. Or you are else, you are parents. And if you cannot, as 2 parents, come to an agreement to work out what is best for that child, and you end up in a mediation, a legal setting, that you both as parents have to take onus on that. And you know what? We have put our child in this situation because we couldn't be grown-ups and say, do you know what? Our relationship was shit. It was toxic. We didn't get on. But let's put that aside and be parents. And if you can't do that and you end up in the legal system,
you're the problem.
Take responsibility for that.
I don't know. To a certain extent, I agree with that. But then, as everyone's saying right now here, easier said than done with someone who's got BPD. Easier said than done with someone who's got narcissistic personality traits. Easier said than done with someone, my ex-wife. The amount of sacrifice and I've had to make sure that my daughter gets as happy a teenage years as she can have is by making the sacrifice that I've had to make sure that she smiles and whatnot. And it's made our relationship stronger. But I've got a shared care order that says like 50-50 with recitals in it, that Lila gets to choose where she stays and whatnot. That's never been in place. My ex-wife has never complied with the court order. I've got 20 hours unpaid work. She didn't even finish that. There's things and I'm not going to keep chasing it, because my daughter, I've made a promise to my daughter, we're never going back to court again with our own personal situation. That's 10 years. My ex-wife.
Exception to the rule. There's always going to be something. But I understand that everybody's situation is different. And bipolar disorder, people are going to be narcissistic. People are going to. I completely get it. But if that person is, as you said, they are, the court will see it.
And this is the problem we face, and this is the problem that as a non. This is the problem that non. I'm clever enough to have made the sacrifices that I've made, but not everybody else has. I could have driven my daughter away if I forced my daughter, because the alienation that she suffered and that she is suffering. The professionals now are aware of it all. They're now aware of it, and they wouldn't listen to me because of my own bad behaviour before. I get that within the court setting, and I appreciate that. But they see it all now, and everyone sees it. So ultimately, how can people get around that? You can't get around that. You can't. It's impossible.
Why?
So I've had to make sacrifices, and if people don't make those sacrifices that I've made, I mean, if I forced Lila to come and stay with me, that's going to push her away from me. But people don't think like that. People don't think that way. People think about themselves and not sacrificing and compromising.
But then I think you also have to. I could be wrong, but I feel like you've named your ex a few times.
I don't care. Yeah, I do.
And that isn't great.
I don't care. Yeah.
I know, but you eventually, like, your child could watch this, and
but she's in the group.
No, but your child will eventually need to understand what happened between you and
She
mom.
does understand. She's 14.
Regardless of your feelings, and
it's not my feelings are fine. I'm at peace with it. I'm at peace with it. You understand? You don't come at me. I'm at peace with everything. I've made sacrifice and compromise. I'm cool with everything. There's no bad.
I don't agree with you naming her mum. I don't. I think
that's up to you. That's up to you. You've got the right to feel that way. That's cool. But I'm cool with that. But if it slips out, it slips out. It's all over the internet anyway. So it makes no odds.
Why is it all over the internet?
Because I've got most of it taken off when I was younger, but because when we were doing silly stuff with Fathers for Justice. The last stuff I'm trying to get off the internet is on his website, on their website.
I think the difficulty here is that social media is so prevalent now, which it wasn't, 10 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
That somebody gets a bit butthurt and they'll and I don't have any social media, but people will write a Facebook status or they'll put an Instagram post. And I've had like a really strong conversation with my 10-year-old the last couple of weeks about his digital footprint, and how once you put something out there on the internet, although you might delete it, it's still there forever, really, because you can screenshot it. And I understand that you have really strong feelings about what your ex has done, and that
ultimately,
I think you do. You obviously have, because it's your child. Your child's involved. Obviously, have strong feelings, but your child. I don't. Sorry, I'm assuming it's a girl. She's a girl.
Lila,
that she's maybe, because she's with her mum, will have a different understanding of it, quite like understandably, because her mum has probably done things slightly differently. And what you wouldn't want to do is, when she's old enough and she sees things, all of a sudden see her dad saying stuff, it would be a much better conversation to be had of you sitting down and saying, do you know what? This is what happened, and this is how things, rather than it being something that's passed all over a live, or
I don't know what world you live in. I don't know what world you live in, though, right? Because me and my daughter tell each other everything. So, so she knows everything. She's 14. They mature quicker because they've gone through a separation. My breakup was toxic and awful. My daughter wants to live with me, or said she wanted to live with me last year, and then what happened was my ex decided to take all of her worldly goods, my daughter's worldly goods, and then bag it all up and say, go on then, see you later, go live with your dad. My daughter knows what she loves her mum, and I respect the fact that she loves her mum. But her mum is, we've all got our flaws and traits and whatnot. Her mum doesn't say sorry. Lila's waiting for the word to say sorry to leave her mouth. That's the reality. These little things, taking ownership of the past, these little things that mean something. But because I've got that relationship with my daughter, she tells me how she feels. She tells me what she's.
And that's amazing. That's amazing that you have that, and it's good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for it. But I've been criticised in the past for my parenting or whatever by social service and whatnot. But she tells me everything. I know more than what social services know. I know what goes on at home, and if I wanted to, I could do something. I would never breach my daughter's trust ever. I've done that before when I was in the court process, and that was again the wrong thing to do, recording what she was saying and using it to my advantage and whatnot. That's wrong, absolutely wrong. And again, all I can do is teach people not to make the same mistakes that I made or made in the day. So because just ultimately, there are people you impacted.
So the service that you're offering is a guidance service. It's guiding people through the process of kind of like, okay, so you've been through this stage. This is what's going to happen next. This is what
It's a McKenzie film role. It's coaching them and supporting them, not just through the law, not just through that bit, but it's like for everything, psychologically, everything. If you look at some of the comments up at the top or whatever, people say I've saved their lives. I've got a phone number. People call on like whenever, and then they're suicidal. They come through to it. I speak to them for hours on end and make sure they're okay. I'm like level 5 counselling.
I can't see the comments, by the way. I'm not trying to be
that's fine. That's fine.
Negative. Cool. Like I'm not. For me, this is really interesting because I work within it.
Yeah, sure, no, absolutely. I'm grateful that you it takes a lot to come and speak to people that you don't know and do this on a public platform. I think it's cool. It's really cool. But ultimately, there's everyone's going to have different opinions, everyone's going to have different theories, and everyone's going to have different thoughts and whatnot. And I think it's about respecting everybody's and trying to learn something from as many people as possible. Yeah, and some people are saying here, some people are saying, sorry, your legal practice obviously had easy clients. We live in the real world, being wronged as male parents.
No, that's honestly, I wish I could tell you which firm I work for, because it's the complete opposite. We work for some very high profile clients in very nasty situations, and when you qualify as a solicitor and you become a member of the Solicitors Regulation Authority, you take an oath to uphold integrity, honesty.
That's what I'm saying, and that's what
we are here to make sure our clients get the absolute best outcome that they need. Let me just throw a spanner in the works. If a client came to us and they said, I want my children to live with me. They're currently with their dad or mum, and I want them to live with me. And we said, okay, so what's the basis of this claim? Like, why do you feel that way? If we felt that child would not be safe, despite the fact our client was paying us, we would 110% say, no, this is not correct. And we would contact the other party solicitors and say, we are with you. And we will write a report to substantiate your claim for residency. We will never, ever do something out of money.
But then again, I mean, I've again, people, it's different people, different businesses do things. I can't help but feel that people in positions of power, such as solicitors and whatnot, like they do, you're going to get people who will take advantage of the vulnerability.
So I've worked
That's life.
with many solicitors over the last 10 years that I feel have been incorrect, have done
10 years?
malpractice.
You've been doing this for 10 years? You're not old enough to be doing this for 10 years.
Unfortunately so.
Wow.
Fortunately so.
So when did you qualify to be a solicitor? And how did you study it from school and stuff? Did you, or what? How did you get into it? What made you think that you wanted to be that? Because I would never. You put me as a child, me as a kid, as a solicitor, and I'm studying BA honours in law now and whatnot, and everything that I'm studying, everything I'm learning. I wouldn't. If you put me in that situation years ago, that's never going to happen.
I worked in conveyancing, so I was in property, and after a while, thought, this isn't for me. I didn't want to do conveyancing anymore, so I switched to family and crime.
Fair enough. And then you said you've got children, so you've gone through it yourself. You managed to negotiate it all outside of court and stuff.
I've got 2 children. I've got 2 sons, and we co-parent. It's not been easy. It's been a difficult ride.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things that I've always thought when I've been going through anything with my children is, so one of my biggest hardships, if you like, through my breakup was when my son's dad got a new girlfriend, and I found that really difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, I found it really, really difficult. And my biggest thing was, I never want him to get married and be like, oh, well, I can't sit mum next to dad on the table. Like, never wanted him to feel that he had to pick between the two of us, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's good.
So we have always kept any disagreements to ourselves and never let him know that we've disagreed on things.
Mm-hmm.
We make a point at birthdays that we do birthdays together. We'll go out for tea, or when his dad comes and drops him off, it's not just a doorstep drop off. Like, I'll go outside, like, hi, like, what have you guys been doing? The same way, my son's dad's actually just split up with his girlfriend, but he was with her for a very long time. She's integral to my son's life. She's his stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
I did her straight away, and I was like, I know that you and will have things sorted out, but if you ever want to see my son when it's not his dad's day,
Mm-hmm.
I will figure it out. It's not a problem. It's ultimately, my biggest thing was separating me and his dad's relationship from our parentship.
Yeah.
And my feelings of when we split up and I was hurt and I was upset, that doesn't change our situation as parents.
No, that definitely.
Because we'll have to be parents. And although I was very upset with him, I wasn't upset with him as a dad.
Yeah.
I was upset with his boyfriend, not as a dad. And it was very important to separate those two things.
That's cool. So okay, so in terms of do you mind me asking? Because I've got a thing, right? Forgive me, right? If I ever was dating again, because I don't think I ever will again, but if I ever did, I'd probably avoid a social worker or a solicitor or a family law solicitor. Now, would that have anything to do with the fact that he didn't go through family court? He just knew that he's got a solicitor, or is it? I'm just joking, because
no, because at the time I worked in conveyancing.
So you weren't even doing it at the time.
Nothing. No, and he had a new girlfriend, And my only qualm was, please just let me meet her. Let me just.
Yeah.
I have so my oldest son now is 10, and me and his dad spoke when he was 1, and I've not had a boyfriend since. I've got a boyfriend now, Chris, who under now, and Chris is like the first person to be around my son, and I understand that for my ex, who's my son's dad, that's quite an adjustment for him.
Yeah.
Never been
Never
a
seen it.
male figure in my son's life, and then straight away I was like, we've moved in together now. We live in this nice house together, and I've said to you, if you want to meet him, that's absolutely not a problem, because my son is really close to my boyfriend. Like they game together, and they do. As if you ever, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can always come meet him. And I would hope that he would extend me. He's unfortunately since spoke with his girlfriend that he'd been with for a long time. But if he got with a new girl that was around my son, I hope that he would extend me the same. Just, I want to be best friends. Just let me meet them so I know who's my child.
I think that's fair. I think it's absolutely fair. I think I tried doing the same thing with my ex, the boyfriend she's got now. I think I've tried. This seems to be the longest one that she's had. So it's like I've tried reaching that hand out of trying to see all that stuff, but it's no go. But I think it's really good and really positive to hear, regardless of whether people can believe it to be true based on their own situation and their own stuff that they've had to deal with, that you've got that. And I know it happens because I see it happen. I see people who avoid family court and they speak to me and I'm like, you need to try and do this and this. And the amount of people have stopped going through family court and they're actually able to see things from a different perspective because of it is
in those, when you have people like that who are like, it's just to find obviously mediation. But if before getting just see that, because normally there is a middle point. There is a mum or a grandma or a granddad or a dad that will be happy to just sit between them and say, listen, let's do what's right. Let's work it out. I'll be the middle point. If you can't communicate with each other right now because you're angry or you're feeling kind of something's happened negatively in your relationship as you're broken up, let me be to have that one person before you have to go through because to go through mediation and then to go through court and contact centres for a child when that doesn't ever really need to happen.
It doesn't need to happen, but ultimately it does happen, and when it does happen, the argument. Look, people go into relationships and they communicate somewhere in the relationship, and it took me 8 years to realize this. 8 years to realize that somewhere between me and my ex-wife, somewhere the communication broke down. Whether she'll blame me and I spent 8 years blaming her. The reality is, two of us stopped communicating with each other, and then because of that, that's where we're in now, and that's the reality. Because the relationship ends because the communication stops. That's the long and short of it. In my view, I think.
It's so hard because it's crazy. Like I deal with a lot of divorces and work, and I see two people that loved each other exponentially at some point. They built an entire life together, and then it breaks down to the point where they can only communicate through solicitors. They hate each other, but at some point their worlds and lives. And I think when you are going through a breakup or when the children are involved, you have to tune into that little bit where you had love for each other. Tune into that little bit, pull it back, and be like, okay, let's work it out for this reason. Or for a child, for parents to go through the situation whereby courts were involved, mediation, that's obviously very traumatic for a child.
Yeah, of course. They pick up on it as well.
What it's made is it's fluffed up, and contact centres are lovely. They're so nice, but a child's not stupid. Children are not stupid. They know what's going on. They know exactly what's going on. And when I don't know if you've ever had a night drinking and you've got really upset and emotional, and you've spoken about even like my mum and my dad. My thing is, I will never let my children drink too much and me be the reason that they cry. So I lost my mum when I was 17.
Bless you.
And if I drink too much. I got upset about losing my mum. I get upset about those things, and I will never let me be the reason that my like when they're older, obviously, because they're very. But I will never let it be the reason. And I think sometimes anyone that is going through the judicial system for family, you sit back and think, how are my children going to view this?
My daughter.
Hey guys, I'm shooting now, but respect to you for coming on. Like, she makes a lot of good points, mate. It'd be nice if all solicitors were like you, wouldn't it?
No, but didn't it just?
Yeah.
Well, cool,
I
Dan.
feel like that.
I'll catch you soon, Dan. Yeah.
I'll see you both later. Take care.
All
Cheers
right,
for your
bye-bye.
time. Bye, bye, bye.
Well, that's that then. So look, I think ultimately, it's different because to get a different perspective on it is cool. But ultimately, long and short of it is, I don't think all solicitors are as good as nice as you. Basically, this is what we're saying. Where are you based?
Manchester.
Manchester. Well, that's good. Long as well, that's not good because I mean I go up there sometimes. I think, but no, if only all solicitors were as nice as you ultimately. And I think obviously you're getting good cases, and you probably manage people's expectations in the right way as well, and you're probably doing things a lot differently to a lot of how a lot of other people probably magic their stuff up. I think that's the long and short of it, really.
Well,
But you've done it, but it's good because you can co-parent as well. You're showing that, and it's beautiful because when you've got people who are able to co-parent, it shows us folk who don't have that same privilege or the same facility or ex-partner to do that. And I think sometimes we've got to look at ourselves. We've got to look at ourselves and our own behaviour and our own actions. But I think when you say like we put your children, you make sacrifices, you make compromises for your children, for the interests of your children. And if you can't do that, then what's the relationship? What's your feelings like for that child? Do you know what I mean? Should you be a parent? And I think, to go back to your point as well, where the law is going to change and where everything's going to happen with the more modern approach, i.e. doing mediation and staying out of court, I think it's right. People should be, kids, I don't think it's right, but I think it's fair because the trauma that my daughter feels now coming into this time of year, because it reminds her of the 3rd of August when me and her mum had a proper big bust up. I think that's something that she's never going to get over. And so I'm saying I'm never going to get over, well, I suppose I'd have now, but it used to be for me October to January. It used to be when my parents separated, and you remember that. So yeah, so I think that's cool.
Well, it's been lovely to talk to you about.
And you too, and you as well. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Take care. Well, that was a bit of a turn up for the books, wasn't it? Eh? Jeez. Whew. Well, that could have been much more different than it was. She was actually really, really nice. I think she. Come for an argument, no arguments. That was cool. It was good. It was good. It's the first time someone's actually been brave enough and good enough to come on and actually speak and have a decent, good conversation. And that was actually good. We should do more of that. So thanks, Dan, for doing that and having the conversation. Thanks to everyone for your comments and being part of that. And being respectful as well. I think it's really important that people are respectful. And there's been people who have had different opinions and whatnot on there, but there's people who have been respectful. And I think it's really good. And I think from how the group was before, when we called it father's rights and whatnot, and to be more of a neutral Mackenzie friend thing and more viable for more opinions and more perspectives than just from the father's rights world. I think that's important. And so thank you to Christopher Smith's missus, who is a solicitor somewhere in Manchester. And if you come across her, she's probably worth taking up because she seems quite good. She seems quite good, and she makes some good points, and Dan's made some good points, and yeah, all good in the hood. Now I'm going to get on doing what I'm doing. And I think it's clear. She asked me, just in case people are wary, I do support people going through that family court system, emotionally and psychologically, and I help them come to terms with a lot of things that what she was saying, to be honest with you. So it's all good. Peace and love, everyone. Peace and love. Thanks for staying so long. This is probably one of the longest ones I've ever done, like an hour and 40 minutes. So peace and love. Where's the camera? Ida's glove. It's all up there. And no doubt some of you I will speak to you very, very soon. Take care. Much love. Peace and love. Peace and love.